Hello. Today we are going to be talking about the English in the New World. In the last two videos we talked about the Spanish and the French in the New World. But today we are going to be talking about the country which at the end of all the colonization made its biggest impact on the modern day countries of the United States and Canada. England. England first started colonizing on Roanoke Island. But before that, some background. England wanted to start colonizing due to the fact that Spain and France had already started making colonies. Spain within South America, Central America, and the Caribbean, France in the Caribbean and modern day Canada, and the Portuguese on the island had just left it entirely and went all around Africa to get to the real gold. So England, who was Protestant, didn't want to miss out on colonization due to the fact they were worried that not only would they lose out on trade, money, and profits, but also the fact that eventually Spain and France, who are Catholic countries, would become more powerful with colonization and eventually threaten England itself. So, England started sending expeditions. One of the first was John Cabot. John Cabot explored the northern Atlantic coast of North America and came back. After that, more and more English tried to make it to the New World, and eventually Roanoke Island was founded. Unfortunately, this failed due to the fact the colony disappeared over time. It was known as the Lost Colony, with the only symbol remaining being Croatan. During this era, privateers like Francis Drake, who actually circumnavigated the world, was raiding Spanish ships. Spanish ships from the Americas, specifically South America, carrying things like slaves, gold, and many other materials, were being raided and plundered by English privateers, specifically hired by the monarchy to prevent Spain from getting more and more profits. Due to this, King Philip of Spain threatened to send the greatest fleet the world had ever seen, called the Spanish Armada, to defeat England. But with some miraculous miracle, England defeated the Spanish Armada in 1588, thus beginning the first echoes of English naval dominance throughout the centuries. One thing that emerged during colonization in many European countries, most notably England and the Netherlands, were things called joint stock companies. These were predecessors to modern corporations and the massive stock markets you see today. But even though they began in humble beginnings, many of these companies, such as the British and Dutch East India companies, took over massive swaths of land and made many profits. But right now, during this era, this is the first baby stages of European colonization. King James I signed a decree allowing the London Company to explore and build in Virginia, and the Plymouth Company to build in North Virginia, which is approximately modern-day New England and Massachusetts. Now, the first permanent English settlement in the New World was Jamestown. Jamestown in the beginning had very harsh beginnings due to the fact that there was a common store system, which means people always got their rations, which means people who didn't work to make food or to gather resources didn't need to. They could just get it from the common storehouse system. Due to this, less and less people were actually farming, fishing, or doing things necessary for the colony to survive, and thus, on one of the winters known as the starving time, many of the colonists died. But one of them, named John Smith, made a very famous quote and also enforced people that they had to work. And this famous quote still echoes throughout history. It is, "Thou who shall not work shall not eat." Due to this, Jamestown was becoming more and more successful and eventually became the first permanent English settlement in the New World. One thing that heavily impacted the economy of Virginia, of colonial Virginia, after Jamestown was the introduction of tobacco, which is used to make cigarettes. This was one major factor in Virginia, and it had a massive tobacco producing economy as well as many other colonies throughout the New World. During this time, the French, English, and Spanish were also introducing the slave trade, a triangular trade which not only included slaves but goods, services, and other things between Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Usually the way this worked was that slaves from Africa went to the New World, Products like tobacco, potatoes, and many things that were not related to Europe or found in Europe were exported to Europe in the form which were then manufactured and processed into better things. For example, lumber was exported from the Americas to Europe, and in Europe it was eventually made into a chair or a table. The triangular trade, also known as the slave trade many times, was a massive trade that lasted for many, many years until many countries started abolishing slavery. But the triangular trade during this era was extremely important for Spanish, English, and French colonies throughout the New World. A few people involved in the prospering of Jamestown included a Native American girl by the name of Pocahontas. Pocahontas eventually married a famous colonist named John Rolfe. Pocahontas played a very big role when John Smith was captured by the Native American chief. He was about to be executed, but Pocahontas prevented that. Pocahontas, like many other people, helped Jamestown prosper, and eventually this ended up in Virginia becoming a royal colony. They also started getting political assembly, known as the House of Burgess, which served as the governance for the Virginia colony. During this time as well, due to Native American uprisings, unrest started to happen in Virginia, and eventually a man named Nathaniel Bacon, had an uprising, and they even burned Jamestown. Eventually, Nathaniel Bacon died, and the uprising stopped. But this was the start of how people in the Americas wanted things to be different. They didn't want governance to be like the way it was in Europe and the old world. They wanted something new. And throughout the centuries, frontiersmen, immigrants, millions of people came from Europe and all over the world to come to the Americas to live a different life, a new world, free of many things, and to start their own country. And this is how the American dream came about. This is the predecessor of the American dream.